Uh, at this part of the lesson, I will explain multiplication trainer example. This example contains multiple pages, and that needs to share data between page generation. For this reason, its easiest approach is to store this data in session because due to the logic of the program, it is per browser. So let's clone it, run it to see what it is doing. And after this, I'll explain the logic behind it. And this program is extremely simple in terms of it's not really much of the training there is going on. It generates a random multiplication problem between two numbers less than 10. It does not maintain history. It doesn't maintain statistics, does not maintain score. It just tells your answer is right, your answer is wrong, and go to next problem. And next problem is also randomly generated. So there is no history in this problem. There is no statistics. There is no total score. Totally brute force, and to demonstrate the concept of using session, essentially, not to train people in math. Right? So let's run this program and see what behavior. And after this, I will go through the code and explain how it is implemented in the code. It started, so I go to localhost 8080, and it shows me randomly generated problem. If you have issue with CSS, so colors are wrong, it is expected, and let me tell how to deal with it. A browser do save some files in local storage of the browser, such files as CSS. We have all applications running on the same address, localhost 8080. And if CSS has exactly the same name, CSS main.css, for the browser point of view, it is exactly the same file. So it will not try to ask for it again and compare. It will just assume it is the same file because it has the same web address. So for this reason, if you have CSS from one application, it may go into conflict with CSS in another app. So it will not display properly. Dealing is simple. You force reload of the page. How to do? Control-Shift-R will force reloading the page. Well, of course, I reload the page, its random number is different. So I'm showing how to force reload this Control-Shift-R. It is dealing with if CSS is not doing what you need to do. Okay? So it may happen in your example, in my example, in your assignments. It's just expected behavior for browser. Nothing wrong with it. It does not come up in real life scenario because in real life you have applications running on different web addresses. It's just side effect that we all run in one web address and browser stores data internally, so it doesn't have to send requests again and again for the same file. Now, let's talk about how it behaves. When you go to localhost 8080, it is, by default, it is new page, a new problem. And what happens at that address? A main Java controller, quiz controller. I have slash address is the same as new problem. Okay. Two addresses associated with the same method of the controller. So what happens here? It says, here it is. A new problem is called. New problem is called. Then I call problem service get random problem. Here it is problem. Now I need to show data from the problem on my page, right? But it's not added to the module. But it is added to the session. When we add data to the session, so it will be available inside of template. So we don't need to add it to the model. So it's a new topic. Okay? If we add data to the session, we may access them public properties of this data inside of template. And I'm returning new problem. So what happens inside of new problem template? In my templates, resources, templates, new problem, I display the problem on the page. 4 times 2 A replacing 2 times V replacing 2. So A is one variable, B another variable, and answer is not shown, obviously, because it's asking for answer. Okay. My problem in domain, where is the domain? Domain, I have problem, and it has data field A, B, and answer. Okay. So I added this to session, and template is able to show data from the session this way. Next, when I click Submit button, this one, form sends data to address check answer. See? To address check answer. So if I click Submit button, I need to put something here. Wrong, obviously. It submits data to address check answer. Here it is, check answer. And this is the data that I submitted. User answer, 42. Okay. So browser, we send this data, and browser receives, we send this data to the server. Browser remembers last address where it was sent, so it shows. And server receives this request at check answer. Check answer, here it is. Right? This is a parameter, user answer, user answer. Okay? So it is received here. Next, I display it in debug. So for easy debugging, right? Somewhere here. Yeah, user answer is this one. And I'm retrieving problem from the session. I print it again, so I know that it is actually retrieved correctly, right? And if problem is null, I print session expired, and it shows session expired template. But it's not what happened, right? It found the problem. So we're here. It found the problem. I add user answer to the model because I want to display it here. Your answer is 45, okay? So I added user answer to the model, and after this I do switch. I call problem service great user answer. So this is problem, this is user answer. And my service problem service has a method great user answer returning great. What is great? Great is right answer, wrong answer, input error. Okay. So going back to problem service. I call problem service and user answer. User answer is a string, so it needs to parse it. So I'm trying to parse it, but it may throw exception because I could enter it whatever. And if it throws exception, I'm returning input error. Okay. Otherwise, if parsing is successful, it doesn't throw exception, I can compare this with problem get answer. If it is matching, return value, it's great right answer. Otherwise, returning value is wrong answer. Okay. So this is what get user answer is returning. Get user answer, it's here. No, great user answer is returning, so I'm here. And this is regular switch, right? As before. So it's traditional one. So if it is right answer, I'm showing template right answer. If it is wrong, template wrong answer, otherwise shown template bad input. Okay. Questions? So this is how this page is checking it. And now I got this page, and I have link new problem. It goes back to new problem. A page see answer to see what is it if I give up, and try again. So let's try again. Try again, it's address try again. So request sends to address try again. Nothing is submitted except address. So going to problem controller, address try again. I'm asking for the session. Now session is already existing. Right? So I pick session get attribute problem, so this is the problem. If problem is null, it means it's expired, so I'm showing page session expired. Otherwise, I'm showing template try again. Since problem in the session, I can display it there. Why did I do this? Only to check if it is equal to null or not. Because if it's equal to null, I have to show session expired. I cannot display it inside of the page. Okay. So this is how try again page comes up. And it's the same problem. If I say finally that it's right, okay, say, hey, you are right, okay? So this is obviously a result of check answer, right? Check answer, user answer equal to 8, and you already saw check answer, how it works. Okay? And this is template, answer is right. New problem, and there is also see answer option. And this sends request to see answer. No submit, it's just regular link, see answer. And when we go to see answer, it just display problem from the session and is answer stored in the session. Questions? So this is the logic. Things that are not explained but needs to be emphasized. So let's talk about it. Problem is created by constructor. I have two constructors, either with 3 parameters that are assigned to these variables, or with 2 parameters, and third is just calculated. Okay? Random number generation is not in the problem itself. It is provided by problem service. Problem service is generating 2 numbers, see, and returning problem. So what do we see here? After problem is created, it never changes. So each time it is new problem. Get random problem is new problem. And in this problem, all these values are final. It means they are assigned inside of the constructor, and there is no option to change it. They're final, they're constants. Okay. So what is for? Why do I create an object which I don't change? Yeah, of course, it's a choice, right? It's a choice, you can do that. But there is a reason for it. This object is just a data storage, and I don't want to change these values because of some internal reason how the server works. So let's discuss it. We already learned that requests from browsers are processed in parallel by different browser threads. So potentially, browser can't process requests in parallel, or not even in parallel, but it's different requests for different browsers. And what do we know so far about it? Just because this quiz controller is global object, we cannot store data here. Because if we store problem here, essentially it will change randomly. Because a request comes from different browsers, and new problem requests will come at random time. So it will never work right. So for this reason, we should never try to store problem here, right? It will never work. Even worse, when those requests will come, they can overlap in time and corrupt the data. Two writings at the same time will corrupt the data. Right? So there are two issues. First, this data will be shared between different users, so it will be meaningless. And second, it may be corrupted, right? Because writing at the same time can corrupt the data. So how this works? It's designed in such a way that it can be called at the same time without corrupting data. So when second call comes, it will just wait till first finish. So it has internal logic specifically to overcome the issue of corrupting data. So this is called thread safety. So some objects in Java designed in such a way so they're thread safe. For example, this object, for example, quiz controller is using on problem service, right? So technically, problem service also linked this way. It has to be thread safe, right? Because requests are processed in parallel, so not in parallel, in sequence, depending on situation, but potentially processing will overlap, so it will be in parallel. So in problem service also should be thread safe. And it is thread safe because this is thread safe. Some Java types are thread safe, and this random number generation object is thread safe by design. What happens here, it's thread safe because it's a copy. Local variables are copied per thread. So they are just different copy. Okay. So this is fine. We already learned that problem, it is per browser. Yeah, it appears like there is no way to corrupt it because it is for this data, it is per browser. But there is a way, unfortunately. It is unlikely event, but it may happen. So let's consider such scenario. A user opens two browser windows or two tabs inside of one browser window and try to interact with it, like clicking something, clicking buttons, clicking links. So potentially requests from the same browser can come close in time. Unlikely event, very unlikely event, but potentially it may happen. A request from the browser coming from two different windows or two different tabs potentially may come close in time. And they will access the same object in the session. Because then from the same browser, this session object will be linked to the same session ID cookie, so they will access the same object. So what happens here? This method, session set attribute, is thread safe by definition, by design. Session set attribute is thread safe by design, so this is fine. Although it is the same object, session. Session get attribute is also thread safe by design of the session object, although it is the same object. So it's fine. But what is inside of your object is not thread safe by default. Because it's your own object, you didn't put it there yet. So how to deal with this issue and how I deal with it now? I'm doing brute force approach. If data is written only at the time of creation of the object, there is no way to corrupt it because the object is generated, and after this I don't update the data inside of it. So it is brute force approach. It is just pure data object, and it generated, and after this I never change it. Just because I don't write data into this object after it was created, it never corrupted. It's never corrupted. Brute force works, right, in this case. But what if you need to have an object that is complicated and for some reason you want to update it? So this will be addressed in the following example today. where I will have an object stored in a session that is updatable and potentially can be updated at the same time. Okay. But in this problem, to be clear why it is final, 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 and why I'm not updating it, to demonstrate that there is a potential to corrupt data is stored in a session. It is very unlikely in that, but it is potentially happening. User opens two browser windows and try to click it, close in time. With some network delay, it may end up really close in time, and corrupt data. Okay. Although methods of session objects are thread safe, but you don't implement thread safety inside of your objects. If you call those methods, it's not thread safe. Okay. In this case, it's only getters because and data is not changing, so it is thread safe. Reading can be done in parallel. There's nothing wrong with it, right? But reading and writing cannot be done in parallel unless you do some kind of synchronization, right? You don't read while it is being written, right? Otherwise, you get partially correct data. Partially, you will get fragments of previous and new data, right? Which is corrupt data. And writing cannot be happening at the same time. In this case, I don't have this issue because it's only reading in parallel, right? And writing is done only once when object is created. So this is an issue to be aware of. Even if we have an object per browser, potentially it may get corrupted. And for sure, if you have object which is global, like stored here, in controller, or in this service, which is global, this one, it needs to be designed in a thread-safe way. So data is not corrupted at the time of writing, or reading and writing, right? So writing is not happening at the same time with reading, and two writings doesn't happen at the same time. Okay. Questions?
Not related to this project, but is logging necessary in the assignment?
Log is not necessary, but not using it will be harder to debug. Okay. I do display a lot of logs. First of all, so you can trace what is going on, because when request comes, it is executing code and it's printing what is happening. Okay. When you write your own code, it's a way to see what is going on, because otherwise you deal with kind of black box. What is happening there, we don't know. Only when output is right, we assume that it's right. So I didn't ask explicitly for using log, so I cannot really reduce grade because of it's not there. But if your program is not working, and you probably better to insert logs to know why it's not working. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sometimes I do it too. I'm in Rush and I don't write logs and it doesn't work. Oh, I have to put them to see what is going on, right? So it's not required, but it's a good idea. Okay. Questions about it? Now we have. Next, I want to open another example that has more complicated objects stored in a session and discuss thread safety with it. So since I already mentioned thread safety, we need to talk about it. Thread safety is extremely large topic, and it's perhaps it's weeks to explain, but I will cover it at the level necessary for this course, only at the level necessary for this course. We will not start threads. We will not stop them. We will only learn how to synchronize threads when it is necessary. Start it for a different request by the server. So it's very limited. So threads is a big topic. So if you're curious, learn it. There are tutorials on Lynda or LinkedIn Learning about Java threads. If you're curious, go into that direction, you will learn a lot. Well, today we will just learn very elementary things, just to understand how to make objects not corruptible in the context of using them with Spring Boot, only for this case.